AI is widely used against pandemic in almost every task you can imagine. In this talk, I will only have time to highlight just a few of the key areas. It is interesting to note that with COVID-19, it is the first time that AI is used so prevalently and across all tasks to combat pandemic. In a way, AI is truly saving millions of lives by expediting disease detection, tracing, diagnosis, and drug discovery. AI chatbot is, of course, one obvious and most popular use of AI. During early days of pandemic, call centers were empty, and AI chatbots have to perform the work of disseminating information as well as helping citizens understand what is COVID-19 and its symptoms. This is one example where the Austin, Texas government used IBM Watson and natural language processing to extract information automatically from CDC and WHO and converse with citizens in English or Spanish. The other popular use of AI is in screening for people with fever in large crowds. This is an example used in Beijing's railway system. With large passenger flow, it is hard for humans to detect individual persons. Using infrared and digital camera together with AI, the system could not only detect whether someone has a fever, but also their exact identity, names, and addresses. In the hospital setting, there are numerous uses of AI to detect and diagnose COVID-19. The use of AI deep learning has been very successful to support radiologists in analyzing images. This is particularly useful as back-then accurate diagnostic lab tests for COVID-19 can take up to days. The image shows here is an example of one of the earliest use of deep learning in lung CT scans. The system was already in place in a Tongji Hospital in Wuhan, China when the pandemic hit. The system was initially used to detect lung cancer. Infravision, which developed the system, quickly used data from initial cases of infected patients to repurpose and retrain the system to detect COVID-19. The process takes only 10 seconds with a 95% sensitivity rate. During an outbreak when radiologists are overloaded, having an AI system that can first screen and identify high probability cases is crucial so the infected patients can get isolated ASAP. Although CT scans are not widely used for diagnosis of COVID-19 in the United States, many hospitals in the US have also been successful in using deep learning. This is one example from Mount Sinai in New York. In this example from Northwestern University, they used basic lung X-ray, and AI deep learning was able to outperform humans. Here, AI is used to speed up triage before test results come back, which may take hours or days. The AI program can spot COVID-19 in X-rays about 10 times faster than thoracic radiologists and 1% to 6% more accurate. Sometimes CT scans and X-rays might not be available. This report in Lancet outlined how the University of Oxford developed an AI system using linear and nonlinear machine learning to detect COVID-19 in patients, admitted to emergency departments using routine clinical data that were available within 1 hour of admission, such as blood tests and vital signs. Compared with swab testing, AI correctly ruled out COVID-19 in 97.6% of the time. This is a similar work from the University of Vermont and Cedars-Sinai. They were able to predict probability of COVID-19 infections using routine blood tests, which can help hospitals reduce the number of patients referred for scarce PCR testing, which might take a day to complete. AI system has a high sensitivity of 95% and a moderate specificity of 49%, which is very similar to performance of other commonly used rule-out tests. Now, this is something new, but it's still at early stage research. Supposedly, this AI algorithm developed at MIT can detect COVID-19 by just listening to your cough using your smartphone. People with COVID-19 who are asymptomatic can spread the disease without any outward signs that they are sick. Although asymptomatic, infected lungs will still sound a bit different. Although humans might not be able to tell the difference, AI can. The AI model correctly identified 98.5% of people with COVID-19 and correctly ruled out COVID-19 in 94.2% of people without the disease. For asymptomatic people, the model correctly identified 100% of the people with COVID-19 and correctly ruled out COVID-19 in 83.2% of the people without the disease. With hospital resources scarce, it's important to be able to identify severity of cases early on. AI mortality prediction can be similar to previous research I mentioned earlier. This work from South Korea also used routine blood samples at the time of hospital admissions to predict mortality. The AI model combined deep learning and random forest using 28 blood biomarkers, as well as age and gender as model input. The system has high sensitivity of 100% with specificity of 91.35% and accuracy of 91.51%. The most valuable use of AI is probably in vaccine development. The first task in developing vaccine is to identify a target on the vaccine surface. In the early weeks of pandemic, scientists from Stanford Institute of Human-Centered AI used machine learning to figure out possible sites. Using neural network and linear regression, the researchers came up with lists of targets on the novel coronavirus as most likely to provide an immune response. These targets or epitopes are components of the virus that B cells and T cells will most likely recognize. And this happens a couple of weeks ago. Google DeepMind's AlphaFold version 2 solved a 50-year-old challenge, which is the protein folding problem. Version 1 was already very good, scoring an average of 60 out of 100 and was used for COVID-19 vaccine work. The new version now scores at 87. To find a target site on a virus, we must first understand the 3D structure of the viral protein. Viral proteins are made of linear chains of chemicals called amino acids, of course, which spontaneously fold into complex ribbon-like structures. Vaccine developers must first choose targets on the virus's outer layer that faces outward, so that they are physically accessible to immune system weaponry. AI programs like AlphaFold will allow us to identify targets more accurately. The system uses a machine learning model trained on over 170,000 protein structures. Now that we have several vaccines, people are beginning to get vaccinated, there will be a flow of adverse reaction reports. To help process all these reports, the UK drug regulator plans to use AI natural language understanding to read through the reports and make sure no details are missed. In previous vaccination campaigns, for every 100 million vaccinated, there are roughly 50,000 to 100,000 reports of suspected side effects. Besides vaccines, drug discovery is also a very important area for AI. New drug development usually takes 10 years to do, costing several billion US dollars. Success rate is low. Only a fraction of a percent makes it to the market. And even after it goes to the market, only 2 out of 10 drugs are able to break even. So it's very important that pharmaceutical companies use AI to reduce risks and to save time and money. AI can be used from research stage to identifying targets and compound screening to preclinical in analyzing vast amounts of data, as well as optimizing clinical trials. However, for COVID-19, because of time, our strategy has been to repurpose existing drugs, as they have already gone through clinical trials. Even with repurposing existing drugs, there are many drug candidates to study, as well as different doses. This is one example from the National University of Singapore that uses AI to find the optimal combination of drugs and dosage. With a 12 drug test and a 10 different dosage, the parameter space consists of 1 trillion possible combinations. Using AI, the research team was able to reduce the space to 500,000 and allow the entire study to be completed within 2 weeks. Using AI, the US team found that the top ranking combination is remdesivir, lopinavir, and ritonavir at specific dosage. The combination was found to be 6.5 times more effective than just using remdesivir by itself. Reducing spread through contact tracing and predicting spread in different cities can also benefit from using AI. For example, Google and Apple created an exposure notification API to be used in contact tracing apps that uses Bluetooth without location information and preserving privacy. Google Apple API is now used in over 50 countries. Researchers are now looking into using AI to provide even better contact tracing using machine learning to estimate cell phone distances from Bluetooth signals in different environmental settings, such as inside a moving train, for example. AI machine learning is also used to determine what constitutes close contact in terms of proximity and duration of contact. This might be supplemented by a simple questionnaire to see if the user is wearing a face mask or not. Predicting how COVID-19 spread is also important to help health authorities be prepared. This is one example from Facebook AI, Carnegie Mellon, and Direct Relief, which uses public data and privacy protected data and over a dozen AI models. Facebook AI developed a new neural regressive model that aims to entangle regional from disease inherent aspects within these datasets. It uses spatial relationship between counties as well as knowledge of spread in one area to improve detection in a different area. According to Facebook, the model are largely accurate and are constantly being monitored and updated. My last slide, just a reminder, no matter how much AI and machine learning we use to combat COVID-19, the best way is to stay safe with social distancing, wearing face masks, and washing hands. With that, I wish everyone a wonderful and safe winter holiday, and thank you for listening to my talk. See you next time.